Our today's guest is one of the smartest heads that I have ever seen in my life. As Tom Believe said, human potential is almost limitless, but having potential is not the same as doing something with it. His achievements are going to blow your mind. He took up flying when he was in early 40s. He is second to debut in terms of flying the longest XC flight by an Indian. At age 50, he flew 228 kilometers out and return flight and proves again that age is just a number. He is also the only Indian to have done a 200 kilometers flight on an ENB glider. As quoted in an Iron Man movie, if you're nothing without the suit, you shouldn't have it. Beyond being an amazing free flying pilot, his contributions to the Indian paragliding community are second to none. While the competition flying seemed to almost fade in 2016 with less than 10 active pilots, this is the man who truly believed that it is not the lack of talent, but lack of opportunity that Indian paragliding community is feeling. He worked towards organizing FAI Cat 2 competitions in India. At the end, in 2019, there were 73 active pilots competing for India. He brought in the world-class standards and literally changed the way competitions are organized in India. However, doing all that was not easy. Since there was no outside support, he used money from his own pocket to keep the standards high. He lost a lot of money and he also invested a lot of time. But that did not stop the immovable force that he is. In the simplest form, you can say you may have not seen even a single Cat 2 competition if it was not his dedication. So please help me in welcoming arguably the most impactful person of our times in the development of competitions in India. The man who has influenced any Indian pilot who had dreamed to attend Cat 2 competitions, but were unable to do so due to lack of opportunity. And by bringing Cat 2 competitions approachable to everyone. The visionary, the doer, and the problem solver known to all of us as Baba, also known as Viz. Please help me welcome Vistasp Kharas. Viz, now you can go ahead with today's session. I think I'll hand it over to you, Viz. Go ahead.
Thank you, Alok. That was quite amazing what you had to say.
Thank you very much for doing whatever you did all this time for all of us.
If you don't stop now, you're going to make me cry. Okay. So, okay, so we start, today's session is about Panchgani to Pawna. So I'm just going to give you a little feedback about how we started flying in Panchgani. I think I started cross-country flying. I started learning when I was, I turned 40. I think it was 2010. And for the longest time, I was just, stuck to the ridge, doing what we normally do on every Sunday, do the beat and go home happy. And then I don't know where, somewhere I, read the concept of, thermaling and flying to cloud base. And that kind of, sparked, I don't know, it was like you get a earworm, for music. It was something inside that kept eating at me, and the thought that you can fly and you can reach the clouds. And then I started thermaling in Kamshet. I was introduced to beer billing with my school at that time. And then PAI organized Jockey Sanderson to come to Kamshet, which was something really amazing that happened. And it kind of completely opened up my vision about flying. And it was just a short 2 days introduction, but that completely changed my outlook towards paragliding. And then for the next few years, Kamshet was a very good playground. and we managed to do quite a few small cross-country flights in and around Kamshet until I think it was in 2014-15 when, or maybe even earlier, I don't recollect, when we got our ceiling, we lost our playground, so to speak. So the next closest place was Panchgani, and that's how I discovered Panchgani. Of course, my connection with Panchgani is older because I did my schooling. I was in boarding school in Panchgani. So my early years were spent in Panchgani. So it always has a very special place in my heart. And so then we moved to Panchgani and, cross country in Panchgani around, that is the time around which I think I met Alok as well. And, there were a few pilots, Gokul, to name a few. And in the process of this, like Alok mentioned earlier, we, decided to do some friendly cross-country competitions. And that is when I stumbled upon the tracks of Dilip Kotecha. Now, I'm sure a lot of you personally know Dilip or have heard of him. He was one of the top Indian pilots, and at his peak, when he, met with an unfortunate accident. But the legacy that he has left behind is amazing, and I would like to dedicate this talk, this whole kind of Panchgani to Kamshet route that we have been flying over the past couple of years to him, because when I was doing this in those days, there was no X contest, but on Leonardo, his tracks were a great source of inspiration about what was possible. And I stumbled upon this one track where he has flown from Panchgani to Pawna, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere near Kanifnath. And that was absolutely fascinating. So I'm going to show you that track now. I'm going to share the screen. Where's it gone? Can you see it? Alok, is this visible?
Not yet.
Not visible. Okay.
Yes. Now, yes.
Now?
Yes. Now visible.
Okay. So this is that track. And as you can see, it starts here in Panchgani, and then he's flown all the way to Paud, and from Paud, then he's flown into not sure what this is. I think it is Kanifnath. Close to Baner, all the way to Baner is where he made it. And this track kind of completely, again, was a second realization of what is possible. And then I think
Viz,
at that time I'd
Viz, you stop
Alok was,
sharing.
yeah,
You've stopped sharing.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So I just wanted to show the track, and at that time I remember that, you know, I'd spoken to Alok about this, and we were both fascinated by this idea of being able to fly what seemed to be about, you know, 100-kilometer distance to Kamshed. And and because by then, you know, I think both of us had you know, got our distances in beer billing, and we were used for, you know, 8 hours at a time. And this seemed to be something that was relatively easy, which it is. And then I think in 2016, Alok managed to fly all the way to Khadakwasla. I have that track here also, and let me show that to you. Sorry guys, still getting used to this thing. Yeah, so this is it, Alok Mihani 2016. And as you can see here, he made it all the way to Khadakwasla and passed, I think, here at Sinhagad Fort, and landed somewhere next to Khadakwasla Lake. And this was again, you know, quite an amazing breakthrough for us, because at that point, I think at least I mentally viewed, you know, Dilip as some kind of a god. You know, I mean, for me, he was like this mythical creature. He was no longer around, so, you know, there was no interaction. So, but then when Alok did it, you know, there was again this possibility that, you know, even mere mortals can achieve this life. Then I think in the next year, in 2017, is when I managed to fly to Pawna. Sorry, this thing is coming in the way.
Can you,
Okay, so that's
Viz, can you little bit explain to everyone around what would be a difference between terrain in Beer that they usually see and what would be, how would it look like in the Panchgani Kamchet area? A little bit difference.
yeah, yeah. So see, the thing, the difference between I guess beer billing and Panchgani is, number one, the biggest difference is the wind, because in beer billing you have barely any wind factor to consider. So, you know, even if you're in the lee, most of the time, you know, it's not really such a big problem. Whereas in Panchgani, because of the proximity to the sea, so I'm going to pan this image a little bit. So as you can see from this line here, which are the ghats, can everybody see the cursor?
Yes, yes.
So we have the ghats, the Western Ghats here, and this entire green area is the flats. And the distance as the crow flies to the sea is approximately 100 kilometers. So so we have the sea breeze and the land effect almost every day to deal with, which isn't really a factor that you need to consider in beer billing, except for certain times of the year when, yes, it gets a little windy, and that's the time when you have the maximum number of deployments in beer billing. And so, yes, so that is one. The second thing is beer is, I would say, very good playground. At least the front ridge is a very good playground for the first time, somebody who's beginning their cross-country journey, because it's fairly straightforward. There are ridges lined up perfectly almost every 5 kilometers, perfect for an ENB glide. And, and in front you have the entire body, which, so anytime you can bomb out with lots of landing options. The thing about the Western Ghats and especially, Panchgani area is a little more tricky. As you can see here, let me zoom into this map. So if you see the mountains, or hill ranges, they are extremely, gnarly and not laid out in a very straightforward fashion. You have a lot of these, valleys that are formed, which open up into this drop of the Ghat section. So in the daytime, you have, a flow from the, early mornings, you have a flow from the land, sometimes into the Ghat section and up these valleys when you have an easterly. And in the evenings, you also have the west wind, which kicks in and starts converging along this Ghat section. And then slowly, depending on, which side is stronger, the convergence moves inland. So that's the primary difference, I think, that you need to consider all these factors. So yeah, yes, this is that track. This was in 2017. This was the first time where I managed to fly all the way to Pawna. I like to call it the Seven Lakes tour, because, you cross, let me count them here. You've got, that's the Dome Dam here. After that, you've got, what is this? I keep forgetting the name. That's Neera Devgarh Dam. Then you come here to Bhatgarh Dam, also in the Bhor area. After which you come across the twin lakes of Panshet and Varasgaon, on which you have the Lavasa settlement. There is a small new lake which is formed here since the last couple of years. I don't know the name. It's not a major lake, so I don't mention it. Then you have this big lake here, which is Mulchi. And then finally here you have Pawna. I'm going to continue on this screen because it's a little easier for me.
Viz, when you move across the map, go a little slow. There's a little lag between when you move the map and when we see us. So go a little slow when you move across the map, or wait for a while and then speak.
Right. So this was in 2017. After that, in 2018, once again, I managed to do this distance. However, I did not make it all the way to Pawna, but a little east of Pawna in the Paud area, that is where I landed. The reason being that this year the wind kicked in a little bit early, the west wind, the sea breeze kicked in a little bit early. So as you can see the track from somewhere around Panchet, I was already getting pushed, further east. Let me make this bigger to show you all. So as you can see here, this is Panchet, and then from Panchet, I started feeling the effect of the sea breeze and started getting pushed. And the last kilometers were, if you can see at the bottom, the graph over here, they are hardly, making any height. Let me just, how can I get these screens out of the way? Okay, I managed to minimize it. Yeah, so if you see at the bottom of the graph, from this point, it's all pretty much downhill. And then the final landing somewhere in the Pawna area. Okay.
Okay.
I'm going to move a little quickly because I think you guys might get bored of looking at maps.
We can open the session for Q&A a little bit for a while, Viz, before we go ahead.
Sure.
If people want to have questions.
Good idea.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hold on a second. Let me. Okay. Guys, anyone who has a question, go ahead and unmute yourself right now. We can go ahead. Badri, yes, go ahead, please.
Which, though this looks very challenging, the journey from Panchgani to Pawna, but the most best thing in this journey is the beauty of the terrain and lakes and greenery and being careful about the landings. Can you just explain a point by point about that?
Okay, so what I'm going to do is let's take some more questions. To answer your question, Badri, I've prepared a kind of a video, a diorama, which is not an actual flight, but it's a virtual flight, which the first flight I did in 2017. And along with that, I could, explain a little bit with the visuals, what are the lakes, which are the forts that we passed during the route. Is that okay, or you want me to do it now?
No, cool. Thank you.
Okay. Next question is from Debu. Yeah, there are many questions, Viz. Yeah, wait. So next question is from Debu.
Yeah, Debu.
Go ahead, Debu.
Can't see Debu.
Hi guys. Is it working?
Yeah, working.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Debu. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Viz, really interesting. Interesting to hear about that flight, and yeah, amazing flight for that terrain. And I know, I've flown in Panchgani area, and it's much more intimidating, kind of in a different way than the beer area. And my question would be, during your attempts to do these flights and that stuff, have you ever had any interesting landings out, or an interesting story of like having some epic walkout or something like that?
No, because although it looks pretty intimidating, most of these valleys have roads, because the reason I chose the route of all the dams is because every dam has to have a service road. So so each valley has a road coming in. So if you're patient, you will get a bus out all the way to the highway. I guess talking about interesting landings, I think in one of the attempts, if I'm not mistaken, I was with Badri, And although I didn't have, I don't think I landed with him, but Badri had quite an interesting landing, because he landed in an area with a lot of Badri. You want to tell us about it?
Yeah, maybe quickly for a minute. There was a small hill, and there were one big electric line, and there were very small planted trees, which were from at a height of probably 200 meters. This is on a small hill, and next to that there is a road. Next to the road there is a very narrow landing. On the small hill there is a huge amount of landing with a very small plants. So I had chosen first to go on this. If I have any problem, then I'll go for the road one, because it's a very narrow one. I was not sure about the wind direction, so I wanted a bigger space. So I aligned for landing, and I was only focusing on these small trees. And then finally, when I was almost like about to land, then I noticed about 2-3 lines of these electric lines all of a sudden, because there were mix of, like, there were the big poles and there's small one. So this small one I didn't really give the attention. Probably on the last minute I noticed, and then quickly I just took the U-turn. And luckily there was sufficient space on the backside, and then I took another U-turn, and I have landed very safe. But my wing, 2 or 3 lines went and stuck in a palm tree. They're like a very spiky leaves, and they were stuck very badly. So I had to open the hooks of lines. Then I had to open, and then I had to call somebody who came with a bamboo, and they have cut some branches. And probably I landed at, I think, at 3:30, 4 o'clock, and I was still there till 6:30 to just remove the wing. Rest all was fine. Thank you.
Yeah, I remember, because I continued to fly, and I, landed, couple of valleys down, and, got to the main work, and then I called Badri, and like, where are you? He's like, I'm still removing, I'm still packing. And I'm like, what the fuck is wrong?
So I had landed safe. The wing was safe. Only thing was the line stuck and killed a lot of my time. But everything went really. It was an epic flight. Thank you, Vish.
Cool, great.
So yeah,
that's
so
what I wanted. A nice story.
Yeah. Apart from that, I think last year or year before last, when the competition got cancelled, and after I had wrapped up everything in Panchgani, and by then everybody had left, and there were rumors that they had stopped free flying and all that. But Manu was there. Manu La Flute. So
yeah.
So Manu and me decided to make a dash for Kamshet. Of course, the conditions were far from ideal that day. So we took off, and I think a little before what is that? Little before Rajgarh Fort, we reached Rajgarh very low, and by then we were already feeling a little bit of sea breeze, and we were like almost in the lee of Rajgarh Fort, and we kept scratching till it got, we put ourselves in a very dangerous, not dangerous, but quite a sticky situation, because we really scratched very low in the tree line, and then there was just this very small kind of patch next to the road, and at the same time both of us decided to head out to land. So there were both of us converging for this, the only landing there, and somehow, we managed to coordinate. There was barely any wind, so we actually landed in opposite directions. So we could, see what each other was doing, and we, literally landed with our, wing tips brushing, I think. So yeah, that was quite something. But apart from that, no problem. People have always been, as helpful and, interested in what's happening as anywhere else.
Cool. Thanks.
Okay, there's quite a delay. I can tell now. All right.
I think next question is from
I'll go
Manoj
to video.
Shetty.
Okay.
Is he still around? Because I don't see him anymore in the call.
Alok, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Manoj. Yeah.
Hello? Alok?
Hi, Manoj. I can't see you.
Vistasp, hi, this is Manoj out here.
Hi, Manoj.
I think there's some problem with my signal, so you'll have to bear with my voice.
Sure.
So my question to you, Vistasp, is, what would be your advice for somebody who's flown for like 150 hours, and what should be the progression level from Kamshet to Panchgani, or can you basically stretch upon how has been your journey of progression considering multiple factors in terms of safety keeping? What is your psyche in terms of when you've been flying over the years?
Right. So I won't comment on the number of hours because I mean, you could be, flying for 500 hours and but if I talk about progression and safety, then I would surely recommend that from Kamshet you first go to beer billing as a progression, and then once you're you've done your dharamshala back and things like that, and maybe a couple of seasons in beer billing, then you progress to Panchgani. Or unless you manage to do Panchgani with some kind of a guide, a school, I would not advise you to do it on your own.
Yeah, and definitely not a learning place, Manoj. For all of us, whoever we know, the journey has always been from Kamshet to Beer. Once we all got comfortable at Beer, then only to Panchgani, so that you get comfortable to the thermic air and flying, landing out and landing at different places. So yeah, definitely the journey has been like that for all of us.
Okay, thanks a lot.
I'm not saying that beer billing is easy, but Panchgani is definitely far more technical because there are many factors that you need to consider, and many things that you need to have going on in your head. When you're flying in the Sahyadri hills.
Manoj,
Does that
answers
answer
your question?
Manoj?
Yeah, it's been perfect. Bang on. Thank you.
Cool. Next question is from KK. KK, go ahead.
Yeah, hi, Wes, how are you?
Hi, KK.
KK, switch on your video, KK.
Okay. You like my face today, Alok? Okay, Wes, now I've been looking at your flights, over the years, like 17, 18, and 20.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Now, first question, like they are all happening around the mid of March. It's like 14th March, 10th March, and 17th of March. So,
Right.
would you suggest this is like an optimum time to, embark on such a flight? Because what I have been doing in Panchgani, like February feels like a little stronger and a little more doable. So, how would you say to that? What would you say to that?
No, so yes, the reason that I mean, this might sound a little stupid, but the reason that I've been sticking to those dates is because I got lucky with the first time around.
Yeah.
And every time on Facebook I get this little reminder of that year. So that's where my alarm goes off, and I'm like, I immediately start checking the weather.
Okay.
Because I believe that during that time is the best time. but not really. You know, while I was doing research for this talk, in fact, Alok and Rohit, I was, you know, coming to those tracks also. I wanted to share with you. They did a flight which was in early Feb, and later today I will play a video for you where I've you know, got my track and Rohit's track, which are, you know, 1 year apart, and you know, 1 month apart in terms of the date, and they are almost identical. So no, I don't believe. Also, there is a very interesting track of Dilip Kotecha's, which is in March, I think almost in April. Alok, do you have access to that track you sent me? It's almost in April, if I'm not mistaken, April or May, when he has flown from Pune all the way to Satara.
Okay.
So, so yes, I think February is the best time. February, early March is the best time for Panchgani, because sometimes in April it does get a little too strong and hairy. I remember once Alok and me flew sometime in April, you know, especially after they burn the grass. And both of us got a very good start. You know, we crossed the lake, the first lake, which is Dome, and we got across to the ridge, a little low, you know, than we like to, and thinking that, you know, headed for a nice black burnt patch. You know, 100% confident we'll find the thermal. And we found the thermal, and you know, all we could do was, you know, we were just like, you know, I mean, Debu mentioned that fly aggressively, but trust me, I mean, the only aggression that both of us could show was to look up at our gliders, and, you know, it was just rocketing us skywards. And somehow, you know, we kept the wing flying, and, you know, both of us took a couple of turns, you know, maxed that thermal, got out, and we were on radio, but there was zero communication. We both just headed for the landing. So yeah.
Yeah, I remember in that flight, yeah, I was spiraling in the thermal. I just wanted my glider as stable as possible.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah,
was,
but,
I just needed to be really solid.
Yeah, the initial part, you couldn't even spiral, you couldn't do anything.
Yeah. But I mean, we're trying to figure it out. Then had to make up mind. Okay, the only way to deal with this is to top it out, because it's too risky to keep your glider. Just if you try to go straight out, it was too risky for us.
Yeah, we just needed to get away from the terrain.
Okay. So I have one more question for both you guys, Alok and Wes. Your flight on 10th of March, 18, where again you head towards Pawna, Wes, 10th March 2018.
Yeah.
So you and Alok, you start together, and somewhere in the middle, Alok moves towards the east and turns back towards Kandala. Am I right, Alok?
Yes.
So what was the decision that you guys took up, or was it just like you wanted to head back to Bombay?
Yeah, no. That's a different story. We had Badri on that day who didn't have the radio. Yeah.
Okay.
And so I gave my radio to Badri. It was.
Since we are talking about this, let me show you that track, and we can continue talking about it.
Yeah. So the initial part, let me build up the platform with. So it was Badri didn't have the radio on that day. I gave him my radio, having the confidence that I will be able to catch up with the guys there. However, I also asked them, okay, if someone is low, please don't leave the other person. You have to wait for the other person so that everyone could fly together. I was low at one point in time, and all of these guys left me, and I didn't have the radio. And that was the time I lost all communication, and then I had to be on the safest possible way. So that's how, I mean, that when I could come back quite easily. That was my plan actually on that day. So so that's the story behind it, why the decisions were different for all of us. And
But
yeah, now is
it's quite interesting because so this was the track, my track on that day, which I showed you, and then here I've got Alok track, and what it shows us that if you can see, Alok made it almost all the way back to Panchgani, to the Khandala Ghat, not Khandala Lonavala, but the Khandala Ghat, which then opens onto the Surur Valley. So can you imagine this triangle?
Yeah.
He didn't get a triangle, I think, that day because he didn't close it.
Okay.
But this also shows that this is what is possible. That you can do, amazing, huge triangles in that area.
Yeah.
which you can come back, zoom out of it. I mean, come out of the. You can share both, put both the flights together as well in next contest.
I don't know if I can do that. I haven't got that with me.
Yeah, okay.
Maybe I can do that later. Actually, one sec. I can do that on Google
Just
Earth.
if you go on to the X contest, no, if it's a same day flight, under your name there would be other flight as well.
Yeah, just you'll have to be a little patient. Where is
Okay, come down a little bit on the same page. Go to the X contest page.
Yeah, no, I've got it. Just give me a second. Okay, so can you see this? This is Dilip's track. This was in 2009, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Okay.
This is my track, and this is Alok's. No. Sorry. No, this is your first flight, Alok. This is your first flight when you landed in Siagar. And the other two tracks are Dilip's and mine. No, I'm sorry, I don't have this, but if you can share it, it would be great.
Yeah, I mean, okay, let me share. Yeah. We also had Clint on that day. Yeah, all three tracks together.
Yeah.
Clint, Gokul also.
Yeah, right now I can only see these.
Yeah.
Yeah, the purple
So you
one
can
is clear.
see, I think,
Yeah.
Alok flew almost the same distance that day. Only thing, he flew back to Panchgani, which was fantastic, because which means that you don't have to endure the long journey back. Because the worst part about these flights is that you reach back at something like 11 o'clock or something.
Which Badri here, can you please explain that Alok returning almost like a flatland over the road?
Badri, can you repeat your question?
I'm saying Alok and Vish, please explain that Alok returning the U-turn is almost over the highway. There are no hills. It's almost like a flatland journey.
Yeah, so the primary decision over there was to stick to the highway so that if I bomb out anywhere, I should be able to take a bus back quick. And because I was out of communication from all you guys, no? So I just wanted to be, that was the main decision making.
Yeah, so Badri,
Go ahead, Vish.
Badri, yeah, my personal take on this is that from this point on the screen, sorry, Alok, where you turn around, can you put your yeah? So if you see the height, the altitude at the bottom, it's almost a flat glide. So I believe that he managed to catch the convergence which had shifted. It was late in the evening, and I think on the ride back he rode the convergence most of the way. So I don't know. I may be mistaken, Alok. Did you have to do a lot of thermaling on that ride back?
Yeah, I mean this what you see, the flat one over here is actually a very, it's on the top of the terrain. It's over here on top of the terrain. And later on also I was on a weak thermal for quite some time. This slow going up you see on the elevation map. It was a very weak thermal that I got, and only then I kept riding these weak thermals as and when I kept getting it. I think only once I got a really good thermal somewhere over here. That was somewhere near Kapur Hole, and after that, yeah, I kept moving forward. Yeah, even in between, then I got a little bit of weak thermal, but I didn't want to take it anymore. I just wanted to keep going on the highway and land somewhere. It was already quite a lot of time. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's one hell of a glide. So I think you had some.
Yeah, I don't remember.
convergence
Honestly,
happening
I
there.
don't remember. Yeah, I mean, what I was doing at that moment, I don't remember exactly. Because feeling wise, you do at times, you take different decisions. No, you move a left or you move a little bit right. At that moment, I don't remember what I exactly did. Yeah. Okay.
Good.
How do we stop sharing? Okay, from here. Yeah. Cool. Any more questions, guys? Or then I'll let Viz continue from there if there are no more questions.
One more question.
Go ahead, KK.
All right. Again, on your 14th March 17, your longest flight. If we compare it to the other two flights that I have in 18 and 20, there's a very pronounced dog leg at the initial of your flight plan. There's a C that moves towards, and in the subsequent years, you've tried to take a more straighter route. So, I mean, what made you go to the east?
Sorry, you're talking about 2017?
Yeah.
What made him go more west, no, towards Mahabaleshwar, you're saying?
In the beginning, it's yeah, west. Sorry.
This section here.
The initial part was the start of the flight.
Oh, is this the section you're talking about? This?
You need to go down west.
Yeah, towards Mahabaleshwar, Viz. Yeah, this part.
No, this you're going east. You're doglegging towards east ahead of Mahabaleshwar. See, you're going from Mahabaleshwar to Bogadi and then Mahuda. So we see a very strong dogleg happening. So was it like a westerly influence or what was it happening?
No. At this point, I was still struggling. It took me a long time to establish a climb that day.
I'm talking ahead of Mahabaleshwar.
We took
not here, Wes. If you go to Mahabaleshwar, where it's showing your turn point? Go to Mahabaleshwar.
Yeah.
From this moment on, if we see you drifting towards the east, as in how you're moving upwards, you're moving north. You see that?
Right.
Yeah.
I guess it's just I didn't have any waypoints on my instruments.
Okay.
I normally don't, fly by feel, and there wasn't really a plan to fly to Panchet that day.
Okay.
I mean, not Panchet. There wasn't a plan to fly to Pawna on that particular day. So, so what you see here is our normal route, from Mahabaleshwar, jump across to Kamalgarh, and then across the lake again, to the ridge there.
Yeah.
And it's only when I reached this point, I think on that day, Badri was also flying with me, and we didn't have very good visibility, so I couldn't really see much more than the next ridge, hardly even see the next ridge. So it's only when I reached here and I got a good climb is that when I decided that I would push to the next one. And I guess somewhere at this point in my next transition, I didn't even know where I was. So I remember I had put my I had a basic instrument at that time, no map or anything. So I put my phone map on to kind of figure out where I was.
Okay.
And then you see this correction to the left.
Yeah.
Very pronounced correction where I flew west.
Right.
And then once I was here, I think I got sight of Panchet and Varasgaon, and then I kind of mentally knew where I was.
Okay.
So yeah, that's the story behind that. In fact, on that day, we had almost no sea breeze. Even when I reached Pawna, I remember I had to spiral down, and because my to-be wife was on the takeoff.
Okay.
And so I spiraled down, and when I landed, they were all paravaiting. There was nothing, not even a leaf was moving on Pawna Lake. So yeah, so to answer that, no, there was no sea breeze on that day.
Okay. Yeah, I got it. Thank you so much.
Also, the way now we fly KK, it has completely changed. It was in 2015, 2016, the way we were exploring the terrain and the way now we fly the terrain is completely different. Over the years, we have approached it differently from whatever learnings we've had. So maybe at that moment it was that was a line. Now we know directly where to go, where not to go, which is a better thing to do in what weather. The weather keeps changing in Panchgani every time, and different altitudes it works differently. Now our decision making is much more efficient on what we do with respect to free flying.
Okay.
But an interesting fact is that in 2017 I was flying my IOTA, which is an ENB.
Yeah, that's
and that was the longest distance, I think 103 or 4 kilometers. And in the subsequent years, I flew my Sigma. I think the first flight I was not very comfortable, but in this year in 2020, I'm extremely comfortable on my wing.
okay.
But still, if you see my speed, it's much lower for some reason.
Okay.
So yeah, it was a very good day, and I haven't had such a day since. In spite of checking the weather and planning and all that. In fact, on that day, I feel that I should have continued flying because after I landed, I was there for almost half an hour, 45 minutes before people took off from Pawna Lake. There was no breeze at all. So another half an hour or 45 minutes of flying would have, given me another,
Yeah.
I don't know, 10, 20 kilometers.
Yeah.
So I regret that I didn't keep flying that day.
Okay, tell that to your wife. Huh?
Oh, yeah, I think, that was the motivation. Also, I hadn't worn my pipe. Like I said,
Okay, the
I
screen
wasn't
is frozen.
prepared for a long flight. So, sorry, was I frozen? Yeah, it was a particularly cold day, and I didn't have, very good, I wasn't really prepared for cloud base or anything. So now when I go, I dress up the same way I dress up in beer billing,
Okay.
because it's just as cold. Yeah, except for the heated gloves. I mean, I have all my gear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Um, Badri had something to say here. Badri, go ahead.
Yeah, about the same flight basically, and I think I remember that day only me and Viz were there, and we both were flying, and we both were heading towards Mahabaleshwar, and I don't exactly remember after that where all did I go, but not more than 20-25 kilometers, maximum 30 kilometers around Panchgani, and I could only hear a little bit of on the radio Viz saying that I am heading towards Dome Dam, because the Mahabaleshwar side and going to the Dome, crossing Dome Dam is two different directions. And this was not a plan at all. And he just messaged, he just radioed to me. And then he said, I'm heading still further after another 20 minutes. And then I've just landed somewhere and packed and heading back to Panchgani. Then I get a phone call saying that, I have reached Pawna, you bring my car.
Am I the only one who's facing a problem with the audio? I can't hear Badri very well.
I can hear you well. TJ, can you switch off?
Okay, I guess.
TJ, please switch off the video. Yeah, okay. So basically, I received a call from Vij on the phone. That was too quick. I think that was the fastest flight he went. Is probably a little more than 2 hours. So I landed heading towards Panchgani. While I get a phone call stating that I have reached Pawna, you please bring the car. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, I can hear better now. Alok, can you say something?
Yeah, Nikhil has a question as well. Nikhil, go ahead, please.
Okay.
Hi, Wiz. So my question is probably the times were different when you made the flight. And today, I think everyone would have to be more careful about and mindful about the airspaces. So could you give some advice on how to deal with the mess? Because the airspace data is not that easily available. So how would you advise someone who attempts it from now on to deal with the airspaces?
Alok, can you repeat that for me, because I can't hear anything at all.
Okay. Viz, can you hear me correctly?
I can hear you.
Okay. So I'll repeat the question from Nikhil. He's mentioning, what about the airspace restrictions now? How can he navigate through the airspace restrictions now and make a safe flight, a similar flight if he has to make?
Okay, so yeah, I don't have the charts in front of me, Nikhil, but the airspace restrictions in that area, I mean, as you are aware that paragliding in India currently is still, it's an unregulated sport. So, so there are, to a certain extent, there are no regulations. However, I make sure that I avoid the Pune airspace, give it a lot of berth. I have in the recent years managed to procure some charts, and the entire area is in the cone of Mumbai airport, and there is one flight that comes into Pune, where they only, you can only safely fly below 700 flight level, which roughly translates to around 7,000 feet.
One interesting project I feel could be, if you already have the charts, I wonder how difficult it would be to convert them into GPS files and maybe upload it for somebody else's benefits.
Viz is really not good at it.
Alok, can you repeat? I can't hear that.
Yeah, he's saying if someone can take this as a project and convert into a file that can be used by the instruments as an airspace file.
Or even I would like to
Okay.
contribute for that. If
Okay, Nikhil can also take up that task, he's saying. It
It's
won't
a
be an
great
official.
idea, Nikhil.
Yeah,
I
Nikhil.
can send you the chart. I can definitely send you the charts. I have the PDFs of Bombay airspace, the entire India airspace. So yeah, I mean it's a great idea. I'm not very tech savvy, so I don't know how we can convert it where our instruments can read it, but that would be fantastic.
Also, please remember to cater for defense line. Pune is full of Air Force stations.
got it. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Alok, I'm facing some problem with my audio. Can you hear me?
Yes, Viz, you can maybe try to disconnect and reconnect. Okay,
No,
just
so
for
what I'm going to do, I'm going to not take questions for now.
Yeah.
I'm going to play a recording of the flight.
Yeah. Go ahead, Viz. Yeah, there are no further questions as well. Go ahead.
Good. So I'm going to play a recording of the flight from 2017, and along with that, I'm going to play. On that track is also Rohit's track. On that day, I think you and Rohit were flying together, and you all made it to Pawna Nagar. Of course, I think it is 1 month apart. You were flying in early February, and I was flying in early March. So I'm going to play that now, and then I'm going to probably switch to my phone or something where I can put my headphones and have some better audio. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
You're muting and unmuting me. Can you connect to the meeting? Can
Viz,
you
we
see
can,
this?
Yes, Viz, we can see the video. Go ahead.
Okay. So this is WhatsApp video. So this is the initial part, which KK was talking about going towards Mahabaleshwar. And, as you can see, I'm still looking for thermals at this point. And you can see Mahabaleshwar and, in the distance, the lake, Mahabaleshwar Lake, somewhere over here. So this is Mahabaleshwar Lake here. Can you see that, Alok?
Yes. You have to go a little slow, Viz. There's a lag. So take it slow.
So is the video faster than I'm talking, or what is it?
Yeah, you are faster because there's a lag in the video in
I'm
the
talking.
sharing. You're saying
Okay.
it before and the screen comes a little late.
Okay.
Okay, so maybe pause a bit.
So
Maybe pause a bit. What you want to speak, where you want to speak, and then start speaking. Yeah.
right. So this was this. So this was the first, sort of semi-formed thermal of the day, which you can see again, is not very easy to stay in. There was an inversion at this level, and yeah, now if you can see, over here at the bottom, this is almost over Mahabaleshwar. This is Mahabaleshwar Lake. And that's when I decide to make the jump. So Nikhil, you might find this interesting. This is Kamalgarh. At this point, this is Kamalgarh. Nikhil was doing a project to, have an app for all the forts in India. I don't know what happened to that, but so he might find this interesting. At the same, you can see Rohit's track over here. Rohit has got a very good takeoff and great transition. I think he has transitioned from over Sydney Point. I think Alok was flying along with him that day, and then from here, straight across, not bothering to climb at all at this ridge, and yeah. So bear in mind that these tracks are 1 year and 2 years and 1 month apart.
Also, like I said earlier, KK, I mean, we learned different things. Now we fly differently, so it's also the learning aspect. Okay, where we have to invest time, where we don't have to invest time anymore.
Wes, can you switch on the altitude for your screen? Is it possible to show the altitude along with the speed?
I didn't hear that. I mean, if it was a question for me, I didn't hear that. Sorry.
Is there a place where you can switch on the altitude with?
Yeah, if you click on the stats, the lower arrow, you'll start seeing a lot of parameters.
Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
There's an arrow on the right-hand side under speed.
Yeah.
Okay, so
And
this lake, this is the dam. This is the first, the second of the lakes. The first lake we already crossed over here.
Okay, Wiz, we are losing you. Is it just me who has lost Wiz, or everyone? Okay, I think we've lost him.
I also can't hear Alok.
Yeah, even I can't hear him, Alok.
Okay. Okay, maybe I can also share. Wiz sent me the file earlier. Let me see, where is it? Yeah. बाबा बैटरी चार्ज करना भूल गया होगा लैपटॉप का.
Alok, you can continue, I think, until he comes back.
Yeah, I want to see it's the same file. I'm letting it load right now. Takes time sometimes.
I can see Baba. He is back here.
It's back.
Yeah, he is back. I can't hear his voice, but I can see him.
Okay, I'll let the file load. Meanwhile, Viz, can you hear us?
Okay, well, I'll speak for a couple of minutes.
Yeah, go ahead, Badri.
Your file is up, then you tell me.
The file is up now, yeah, but I'm not sure what Viz wanted to speak now.
Okay,
I can take to the.
Quickly to tell that, how I started in Panchgani is, as Alok said, exactly like, we all went from Kamshes to Bir and then to Panchgani. A couple of big differences is that you always have to take care of the high wind. Always in your mind is the lee is the side on which side of from which way wind is coming and which side is the lee. This will be keep changing. Alok, just alert me, okay? I'll stop wherever.
Yeah.
I'm just doing some time pass. So lee is the major factor you have to keep always in mind, particularly when you're just above 200 meters above the terrain. You always have to calculate, take one turn and keep assessing and keep looking at the ground, the wind direction, because the lee keeps changing based on the direction of the wind. This is the first rule in Panchgani. You always have to keep it in mind. And Vij, are you back? Can you hear? Yeah, your mic is mute.
It's not muted, but I think he's not yet connected correctly.
You had muted me, Alok.
Okay. Viz, I can share the screen to save your bandwidth and we can continue if you want.
Sure. Okay.
Okay. Okay, I'll take it to the place where you stopped near the lake. Okay. This was the lake you were talking about, Viz?
Yeah. So this is the, like I said, I like to call this the 7 lakes tour. And this is the second lake. This is called Meera Devgarh Dam. And yeah, we can move on from here.
Alok, can you go full screen?
Hello, bottom right,
Yeah.
there's a box.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. Can you slow it down to 32 speed? Hello?
Yes.
Okay, then this lake that we've just crossed, this is Bhatgar Dam, and this is over. This is in the Bhor area. It's also known as Bhor Dam. And the ridge that we are currently on, of course, we are not flying together, but the amazing thing is that it almost seems like we are flying in the same airspace. But this is 1 year apart. So yeah, so this ridge is what leads, if I'm not mistaken, to Rajgarh Fort.
Yeah,
Correct me if I'm wrong.
This triangle on the left side here, this triangle is the Rajgarh Fort, this one.
Yeah. So now, if you see my track as we move from here, I was scared at this point that I would be getting, I was thinking that probably the sea breeze will be kicking in. And if you go to that angle, you see that, I'm very close to being in the lee or getting the rotors of Rajgarh Fort. This was the first time I'd never flown over this area before. And I was a little bit scared. So if you see, I'm fort, you can move on. Alok. Gurpreet, to answer your question, I think there was absolutely no cloud on this particular day, and visibility was pretty low. Is that correct, Badri, if I remember?
Pretty low visibility. In fact, this flight, this long distance flight by which is not at all planned. So I was so confused because
but I don't think there was any cloud on that day. That is what Gurpreet is asking. I don't remember, but I think there was no cloud on that day.
There were no clouds, but there was a thick inversion in terms of the fog, or what you call the mist.
Yeah, it was terrible. I think the visibility in this video is much better.
Yeah, but the day when me and Rohit were flying, there were clouds. So we were basically flying the clouds.
Right. Yeah, even this year I got the clouds. 2020, I was. In fact, I flew through a cloud at one point, almost 1,000 meters through a cloud. So yeah, this little lake here, Alok, which we just crossed. I don't know. That's a new lake that has been formed. And now this lake that I'm about to fly over, these are the twin lakes of Panchet and Varasgaon. And on this upper lake is where you have the Lavasa facility, the Lavasa hill station, the new hill city of Lavasa. And I think we missed one fort just before this. So after Rajgarh, we had Torna Fort. Alok, can you locate Torna somewhere?
Yeah, you already crossed that part before coming to Panchet. This climb, this climb where you had was the Torna climb.
Yeah, that is also a very interesting fort and quite an amazing feature. And it's great fun flying over this fort. You can see people, there's a road that comes up, and it's quite a treat. Yeah, we can move on. So now this is flying. I think here the difference between an END and an ENC glider is quite apparent. If you can see, Rohit is almost on a glide, whereas we are crossing Panchet and Varasgaon, and in the distance now you can see Mulshi Lake. On the left, if you can put your cursor there over Mulshi, Alok. Yeah, so this big, almost U-shaped lake, that's Mulshi, one of the biggest lakes on this route. And I remember by this time, I was, quite worried about the sea breeze coming in. And can you also bring in Rohit's track somehow? Because here you all took a very different route. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, not,
but
not a
we,
different route. All
yeah, we were trying to connect the same thing, but so we had a different thing. No, we were flying the cloud. We were just going as per where the clouds took
right,
us.
right,
Yeah, so we had a different perspective on that day.
right. Yeah, the clouds make it a little easier. So this is crossing over Mulshi. At this point, it was already starting to get, weak. The climbs were starting to slow down. Can you move the camera a little bit closer? Is that possible? And here, I'm thinking that I'm in the lee of this mountain range on the left, which divides the Pawna sort of bowl with this valley, and this little triangular shaped thing that we are flying over now. This is Tikona, uh, where I think Rohit has taken a climb, which I could have done in retrospect and kept flying on, but chose to fly over the lake. I mean, I wanted to land at the lake, and yeah, but just oodles of height. There was a kind of almost a restitution at this point, and later I found out that there was absolutely no wind. Is the video smooth? I mean, it's really broken up for me. I think my bandwidth is really
Yeah, I think it's the bandwidth.
okay. So by this time I've already landed. You and Rohit are now heading for Pawna Nagar. What I can do is I can share all these links on WhatsApp, and you all can probably see it, enjoy it later, because with this limited bandwidth, it's quite a problem to see the video. Alok, are you there? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can open again for the questions. Okay,
Right.
I now see Gurpreet's question. How much clouds? There were enough clouds, Gurpreet. I mean,
No, that was on your flight. He was asking me. I
okay.
answered that on that particular day it was low visibility and
Yeah.
almost
Okay.
any cloud. No cloud.
Rohit has a question. Rohit, go ahead.
With a question is, I mean, I know you fly quite alone often. I like to fly with a bunch of guys, and this flight, there's a lot of initial part. Alok's previous knowledge about that area helped us, and later my stickiness helped probably a bit, Alok. But you have a lot of these flights done alone. So I'm just curious, you would have some share among these 4 flights where you had company, some when you don't. How do you see this flying in a company and flying alone, the impact it has on your decisions, searching more area, psychological, or the fear, or having one more person to know that where you are? Can you comment some on that?
Okay, there's a question from. Sorry, I'm going to answer this. There was a question from Vijay also. I'll go to that a little later. Yeah, so yes, I do fly alone. I don't think a lot of times I don't think it is because I like it that way. I really enjoy the company of other pilots. It's in fact very early on it was drilled into me that never fly alone, always have a buddy. And but yeah, we are all busy with our careers, and sometimes when it looks like it's the perfect day, you just want to go and fly and whether somebody is there or not. Yeah, my opinion is that it's much better to fly with somebody because I think Alok, Alok and me have this, friendly rivalry that always goes on, and both of us are quite competitive. And he told me this gem once that if you what was it, Alok? Can you remind me? If we fly together, you may not fly faster, but we will
No,
definitely fly
fly
further.
long.
Yeah,
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the point, the
So
line was, yeah, if you fly alone, you may fly faster, but if you fly together, you fly longer.
yeah, of course, in those days, Alok couldn't fly as fast as me. Now I don't think we have that problem. So, yeah, does that answer your question?
Thanks, Viz. Yeah.
Definitely prefer flying. Definitely prefer flying with company always. Let me
Okay. But
let me
there's
just
question
check
from Vijay to you.
where's the chat.
Yeah, there was question.
Yeah, but it
Vijay,
was shared privately. Can you reshare it, Vijay, on to the
Vijay,
group?
go ahead. You can ask the question.
Oh, he's saying, what height were you when you reached Pawna? I think I was at. I'll have to check for that. Alok, do you have access? Can you check?
Let me quickly check. 14/3/2017. I think you were 1100 something as far as I remember.
It'd be more than that.
1500, 1450, something like that.
Okay.
1400 to 1500.
Yeah, I think it was 1500 if I'm not mistaken. Okay. Any other questions?
Okay. I think
Can't
there are
hear
no.
anything. Am I still in the
Yeah.
meeting?
Yeah. I think there are no further questions. Okay. Bhushan has one question. Bhushan, go ahead.
Yeah, Bhushan.
Hey Viz, super
Hi.
flight. Thank you for sharing all of these with so much detail.
You're
My
welcome.
question is particularly about landing out and the thought
Right.
process around it. Is there too much
Right.
disturbance in my chat?
Go ahead, Bhushan. Go ahead.
No, I can hear you.
Okay. So my question was thing number one to do, as I have understood so far, is being competent with landing out or landing in different spots, difficult spots in a controlled environment. Which is
Right.
something that I've been working on since the past few months. And the next
Right.
aspect of it is actually putting it, to test while flying distance. Say when I'm doing ridge
Right.
hopping in Beer and learning there and translating it
Right.
into huge cross country flights like these. So again,
Right.
taking it one step at a time, if I'm doing it in Beer and going plus one, plus two, and maybe until Red Temple, and maybe transitioning after Big Face, which is what I
Right.
tried to do this season. The first time I saw myself being slightly too conservative in terms of keeping always a landing approach in my head, up to such an extent I maybe even miss a few markers of climbing. So that's my first venture into the big mountains anyway. But I would like to understand your progression of moving from this kind of a stage to a stage where you are competent enough and you know it enough that you can, if you go like 900 feet above the ground or 1,000 feet, you can always spot a landing in that situation, not some three options kind of a landing where you are at 2,000 feet and you spot three landing options, and go for one of those, or the safest one of those. Some thoughts
So
on
yeah,
your. Thank you.
yeah. So on this, I mean, these landing, I would say, is one of the most critical aspects of cross-country flying. I've spoken a lot to a lot of pilots, my colleagues, and a lot of them have this. I ask them that, why are you still happy with ridge soaring, and why don't you progress to cross-country flying? And it turns out that for a lot of people, this is the biggest fear, that where will I land? And 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 yes, there is you can't be too careful or too conservative when it comes to safety. So definitely, in terms of progression, even today, every time I go on glide to the next, obviously when I look at when I go on glide, I've already, I think, like Devu mentioned yesterday, that while you're thermaling, it's almost like second nature. So sometimes when I'm thermaling, when I'm in beer, and the air is, when it's a nice day, I even tend to close my eyes and just fly by feel, just as a practice. But also, so yes, so when I personally go on glide, I have already decided where my next probable climb will be. But as soon as I go on glide, I'm constantly looking out for landing spots close to that point, because at the end of the glide is when you are most vulnerable and you're closest to the terrain. Ideally, you want to have some distance above your next trigger point. You don't want to arrive scratching the trigger point, or having to have seconds. So but the other thing is that you also look for landings close to that trigger point, which then decides as to how much of a risk you want to take. So how long do you want to keep scratching around looking for that weak climb? It all depends on, do I have a safe landing one glide away? And that safe landing means looking for most importantly power lines, and then whether which direction the wind is coming from. Are there any obstructions? I mean, those are the basics if you are going cross country. And yes, I'm a bit of a lazy guy, so I will also look for a landing which is close to a road, preferably away from villages. It's better to avoid villages. Then further, if you want to fine tune, you try and look for landings which are not thermic zones. You don't want to come in for a landing and then start getting thrown around last minute. I don't know how much time we have, Alok, but while we are on this, I would like to share my flight from 2020, or if you have access and you can share the flight.
I have.
Let me just try first, because then I can show with my cursor. So at one point on this flight, I almost bombed out. I was very low, somewhere near Lavasa, and I was literally, at, I mean, to give you a reference from Kamshet, I was at probably at the height of Shelar takeoff, or even lower. And I was scratching around, but I had a landing in sight, and I didn't find anything. And I was heading towards the landing when I sort of found a weak thermal, and and I'll just show you the track. Can you all see my screen? Yeah, have I lost everybody? I can't hear anything.
We can
Yes,
hear.
Viz. Yes, we can see you, Viz.
Okay, the screen is not helping. So, yeah, so if you can see at this point, which is somewhere over here near Lavasa.
Okay, I think we lost Viz. Viz, can you hear us? Okay, anyone can just tell me if we are still online?
Yeah, we are online.
Okay.
Will this come back?
Okay, he's back.
Voice is not come back. This video is back.
Yeah.
We can't hear you, Wiz.
Viz, go ahead. Can you hear us?
Wiz, if you can hear us, your voice is not there.
Alok, his audio is not connected to the system. His audio is not connected to the system.
कहाँ जाके connect करके आएंगे अपन? Hello, Viz. Let me call him on his mobile.
Tell it to connect it. No?
Badri का अच्छा
Yeah.
idea. Badri, very nice.
That's a good one.
Badri. हेलो, आपका ऑडियो नहीं सुनाई दे रहा. Okay, guys, I think I will continue what Viz was trying to say. Okay, I think he's talking about this point where he was almost bombing out. Yeah, if you can see from the elevation map, he is almost on the ground. And then
Hello,
somehow,
can you hear me?
yes, Viz, yeah.
Yeah, so Bhushan, if you can see here, I don't know, Alok, how close you can get to this, but I think I was, what does it say, 50 meters off the ground?
Yeah, 85 meters, 80 meters.
So at one point, I think it was, 39 meters above ground level or something like that.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was almost ready for landing. You know, I had 1 foot out of the harness. And then I got this weak climb, which I kept in for a long time. And I reached cloud base, but and then I continued thermaling, you know, through the cloud. I would not advise this for everybody. but it was a small cloud, you know, not very scary. So yeah, I popped out of the cloud almost at 4,000, and as you can see, after that, you know, the day was almost done. You know, sea breeze had started kicking in, and you know, I didn't really get a climb after that.
Okay, I stopped sharing. I think there was a question from KK. What is your take on flying south? There is a flight in 2010 by Nick Jeff, but I don't see anyone venturing south. Are there any specific reasons for it? Towards Kolhapur, what he means.
Yeah, KK, I think if I'm not mistaken, that flight is much later in the season. Do you have a date for that flight?
Yeah, to the best of my knowledge, it's in April, and we don't anymore fly in April because it's too dangerous to fly in April.
26th April 2010.
Yeah, and most of us are already in Beer at that time. But there's a more answer. The technical answer to it, what I can say is usually we go with the breeze and go with the wind that comes across at the higher levels. That is what our defines our exit decisions at that moment. Most of the times the winds are coming from south. So and going and it is more pushing us north. So logically we always take a decision. Okay, let's do let's go more north. So let's go more towards Kamchet or Pawna side or further, even further. However, needless to say, we've had certain chances wherein we had winds coming from the north as well at the higher altitudes. In Panchgani, winds change after every 200, 300 meters, the wind direction changes. And if predominantly it's coming from the north, then only we take a decision venturing out more towards Kolhapur and in that
Yeah,
direction.
so you know, that time of the year, you know, you might get a very freak north wind, because even takeoffs, you know, I mean, if you're going to take off on the west side and all your thermals are on the east, so April is a little tricky. I don't, we've not really progressed to fly in that region in April. So I guess that is like Alok said, it's mostly you know, you want the wind to help you.
Okay.
Rakesh had a question. In Feb March, how turbulent is the air mass once the sea breeze kicks in?
Well, the sea breeze normally kicks in pretty late in the evening, and you know, if you're flying in Panchgani itself, you experience something called as restitution. So you know, you get these pockets of amazing lift where, you know, you're just going up, you don't need to do anything. So I haven't really felt I haven't experienced any turbulence at that time. If at all, you know, the thermals start to decay even faster, and you know, once the sea breeze comes in, you know, there's more humidity and not very good for cross country flying, but I wouldn't call it dangerous. Does that answer your question, Rakesh?
Sure. Thank you. Yes.
Anything else? I don't have much else to say on the subject. I think all the videos and all the everything I had planned has all gone haywire because of the bandwidth. But I'll be happy to take any more questions.
It was still good, Viz. I mean, we were able to share. We make up of whatever we get. So it was still a good session. We were able to answer.
Okay.
And so if there are no further questions, guys, I would like to thank Viz for giving us this wonderful session. It was quite detailed session, and I think a lot of us now have more know-how on how to fly this terrain and how to dream big. Actually, that everything is possible. And guys, you can unmute your mic and thank Viz.
Viz, thank you very much.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Thank
Alok.
you. Thank you,
You're
Will.
welcome.
Thank you,
I
Will.
can
Thank
see.
you, Viz.
Hey, thanks, man.
I can see Freddie
Enjoy.
here. Hey, Freddie.
Badri, thank you.
Viz.